In this video, we discuss about the steps in research works and demonstrate it with an example of a published research paper. So let's get started. The process of research works can be more or less summarized in following steps. Step 1, identification of problem. Step 2, setting of objectives. Step 3, designing of research methodology. Step 4, research report writing. And step 5, presentation and publication of research work. So let us discuss each steps in details. Step number 1, identification of problem. Now you have made a mind to conduct a research. The first step is to identify the problem, that is, formulate a research problem. The question arises, what constitutes a problem? Well, a problem could be, let's say, the absence of attention being paid to a particular subject matter. And even if the attention is being paid, you might observe certain gaps in previous research works. That is, much more work has remained left or neglected. Similarly, there might be the situations such as research works had been carried out in the past, but currently there might be lack of continuity of follow-ups. This can also be the void or problem in the research. In this case, you can extend the prevailing research findings. Since we are now clear what could be the problems, let's delve into how to identify the problems. Well, there are 3 widely popular methods. Number 1, reading. Number 2, reading. And 3, more reading. Make no mistake that reading here does not only mean going through the books. It also could be the interaction with the subject experts, interview with the public stakeholders. You need to collect the relevant and high quality literatures related to the subject matter. Go through them thoroughly, contrast and compare one literature with the other, gather the opinions on subject matter which are expressed by the experts. That could be in audiovisual format or in written form or the direct interview. And gradually, you'll figure out the voids or absence of the follow-ups. Be specifically clear why the problem you have identified is relevant. When you have clarity on the problem you are researching on, you've solved the significant hindrance of research work. It is because the remaining steps of research are greatly influenced by the way in which the research problem is formulated. Please do not make the mistake of formulating very ambitious and unattainable research problem. Be aware about the financial resources required, the time span required for the designated tasks, and the necessity of learning statistics and computer software tools. Let's get to step number 2, setting of objectives. On the basis of identified voids, set your overall objective. Then list out the specific objectives. You can specify your research questions. While setting the objective, always keep in mind that it should not be vague or ambiguous. Keep it short and understandable. You need to justify why this objective is important and how it is going to contribute to the research gap. Step number 3, designing a research methodology. The next step, and in my personal opinion, a very significant step in the design of research methodology. You have to demonstrate how you are going to achieve the objectives. You ought to decide what sorts of data are required and from where and how do you manage to fetch them. For example, say if you have to conduct the field survey, decide about the instruments to be used, the questionnaires you might need, and the necessary sample size. The research process could be qualitative, that is, no use of data, quantitative, use of data, or mixed, the combination of both qualitative and quantitative methods. I strongly recommend that you prepare a flow chart that depicts the overall research process. Always keep in mind that research methodology should be relevant and offer some sort of novelty. Step number 4, research writing. The research proposal is prepared on the basis of all the aforementioned process, which offers you orientation of research work. Through a detailed research proposal, you would impress your potential supervisors as well as the donors for funding. After the full conduction of research works, that is when you have the results and findings on your hand, then you are ready to write a research paper. A research writing should be able to convey to the readers what you have looked for, how you have done it, and what did you discover from it. Also, how does it contribute in the extension of prevailing knowledge? So, familiarize yourself with the structure of research paper. Generally, it consists of following parts: title, abstract, keywords, introduction, methods, results, discussion, conclusion, and references. If there are some extra details, there would be annex also. So, while preparing a research paper, be aware that your writing is understandable to the readers. After all, a paper is written with an aim to inform the people about new knowledge. There is no point of its writing if the readers are not able to establish a connection with it. Similarly, the length of the paper should not be too short or too long. If possible, cite only the recent publications from the high quality journals. The topic of how to write a research paper needs further discussion, and it is subject to another video. Finally, step 5: presentation and publication of the research work. The research work is to be published. There are different platforms for it. One process is to present in the conference and subsequently publish it, or simply submitting it to a suitable journal in which it will go through several steps of peer review, and if eligible for the publishing, it will be published. So this is how you conduct a research process and publish a paper. Let me demonstrate all the aforementioned steps through an example of published paper. So here's a paper published in a journal. The first thing, as we have said earlier, is the identification of the problem. The topic of this paper is basically the floodplain change assessment using GIS. It means how the floodplain change has been taking place in a particular locality. Okay. The question is, what is the problem statement? What is the problem? Here the author says that, look, there have been many studies, okay, performed by different authors and performed in different cities. However, here it comes. However, these contributions do not delve into the details of change in floodplain. Basically, there have been previous works, yes, but their focus have been in other sectors. There have been settlements, in vegetations, but not in the floodplains. Thus, there prevails the deficiency of knowledge of floodplain change. So, according to the author, the researcher, this is the problem. There is the deficiency in knowledge of the floodplain change, and consequently, it has led to increasing in the flood risk. So, therefore, in this study attempts to fill this void by assessing the historical floodplain change. So, as per the author, there had been previous works which mainly focus in the settlements or the landforms, but not in the floodplain. So this research work particularly focuses on how to assess the changes in the floodplain, focusing in the floodplain. Okay, so now setting the objective. Now since you are aware about the research problem, setting the objective, and we can see the objective is pretty simple: to study the change in floodplain over the years. So it's simple and very short objective, clearly expressing its idea. Okay, then we go to the research methodology, is how to carry out the research process. Okay, so I go to methodology section, and in the methodology section is a complete flowchart diagram, how it has to be attained, the several steps required for carrying out the historical land use change analysis, and identifying the floodplains. So basically all those steps are defined in this methodological framework, and how the data are to be acquired, what is the nature of data, how they are going to be processed, analyzed, and what would be the results. So this is how you conduct the research methodology. Finally, when you have the results, it means how it has changed over the period of time. So this is how the result looks over the period of time, the change in floodplain. The gray one is the floodplain, the red one is settlement, So this is the finding. After all the finding, you start writing a research paper and submit it to a journal, and finally it will be published just like this paper. Okay,